Hello and welcome everyone back. It is Suzanne Worthley with another Energy Unleashed podcast with my co-host, Kim Hess. Hey, Kim.
Hello, everyone.
How are you? Good color on you today. Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh. It's a shirt that it didn't fit me for a long time, so I'm really excited to put it on.
Well, how cool is that you get to lose weight right at summertime when you look good?
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah, well,
happening just very
yeah,
slowly.
yeah. Good for you. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, if you have not watched Kim and I before, the Energy Unleashed podcast usually is centered around client sessions that I have as a practitioner. And then we bring forward some of that information and unleash it a little bit, break it down, open it up for further conversation with Kim. And this is kind of an interesting, a tough subject and a great subject all at the same time. And I am doing my best lately to kind of cross over into the Instagram messaging that I have on my Instagram account. So if you are not aware of that, I do have Instagrams that I'm doing my best to post quite often, smaller segments, energy updates of these kinds of things, and then we'll unleash them here. And this particular subject I did just upload last week because this was a client that I had last week or early last week, late, maybe the one before, I don't know anymore. But she is struggling right now to get pregnant. And this is something that I do a bit of work on. Oftentimes women will come into my office and they're struggling in terms of trying to actually conceive and or hang on to a pregnancy. That's why this is kind of a mixed bag to talk about in a little bit, because it can be a tough subject and it can be an exciting subject. So oftentimes I find that these people are struggling because they've most likely miscarried. And some of them, including this client, had miscarried a couple of times. And I know how that feels because I shared with her and on Instagram that I miscarried in between my first and second child, trying to get conceiving between number one and number two child. And it's tough. Kim, I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you. I mean, you have 3 kids, I have 4.
It came up in the last couple of years with different healers that I've seen that I did have a miscarriage. I didn't know it.
Really?
I didn't
Okay.
realize that I had, but I was under just I was own my own business, working a lot of hours. And we bought a house, and it was when we were moving into the house that it happened. And
Wow, lots of stress.
yeah, a lot of stress. So I
Yeah.
didn't know, but yeah, we can talk about that as we get into this, because I think there's even things when you don't know and you find out, there's a lot
Yeah.
in there too.
Well,
Yeah.
so I think how I would like to approach this is let's talk about actually the fears and the difficulties of miscarriage first, and then we're going to roll back into how, in my opinion, and as always on all of these, take what resonates. Kim and I are not here to tell you how to believe or how to work or how to live, but it's just for the information. But I think that the fears that we find in our own body, this is what I find my clients are up against. They have a difficulty trusting the actual vehicle of themselves. And the way that I like to flip things when I'm working with clients is to actually think about, there's an outside connection here. There's an outside alignment to a higher source energy. There's an outside alignment to the soul that's actually coming in. And if you follow any of my work, you know that my belief system is that in between lives we pick these actual containers to come into. Now, obviously, we need a sperm and an egg and a sexual act in order to get the concept rolling, right? Mm-hmm. And we can talk afterwards about how we can bump that up in terms of ritualizing that. But that soul, in my opinion, does pick. And it picks our family structure. It picks our mom and our dad, our siblings, our grandmas and grandpas, our great-grandchildren, the whole gamut, because there's no time. Mm-hmm. And that in and of itself, Kim, is a really tough one for some clients. If I have a new client and I tell them and I talk that through for a miscarried child in terms of, well, this was contractual. This was a soul contract. This soul decided to maybe, for whatever reason, only have 2 months worth of in utero, or only have 9 months in utero and then leave planet, or they chose not to come in at all, or they changed their mind on timing, or they changed their mind on whatever. This is a hard concept for some people if they're not used to that. I mean, right? That kind of makes their head go, what?
Well, yeah, because soul contracts, are it is a difficult concept to embrace because that's not what most of us were brought up to believe,
No.
especially, whatever affiliation of religion or what that might be. It isn't something that we were taught
Right.
as younger. It makes so much sense when you start to look at life differently through those goggles of contracts. And it does make sense from this perspective, but emotionally, yeah, that's really hard to take. It's hard
Yeah, it is.
to really embrace that when you so badly want that child.
Well, and remember, we get very 3D me, me, I instead of a
Mhm.
we. And this is why we go back to, and when we're doing healing processes, the concept of oneness. We're all one. This is contractual. We have an agreement. It's
Mhm.
beyond ourselves. And it's not just, I want that baby. And so we are looking at things from a bigger perspective in terms of not only timing for you wanting to have that baby, but timing for that child to come forward, and that child and you collectively and everybody, in terms of what's happening in this planet and universe. This is a bigger deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's really weird for people to think that maybe a soul would only want to be in utero for 3 months and that's all.
Mhm.
But we don't get to fully understand or judge that. Quite possibly that's all that it was happening. And then, of course, the co-contract on the other side is for that parent or those parents to understand loss or grief or whatever. And we oftentimes put bad on those words.
Mhm.
Oh, that's sad, or that's bad, or I'd never sign up for it. But remember, source doesn't see anything as bad, it just sees it as an experience. And so these are
Right.
bigger concepts, but they can be really tough.
So for that individual, the mother, it could totally be a lesson for them in gaining maybe more compassion or empathy or some type of emotion that they weren't dealing with previously. Like it
And
could be.
it can trigger things from their childhood. It can trigger things from the other parent's childhood that are wounds that maybe need some healing before the process is completed, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this concept can go so big and wide and deep when we start to think of it from this perspective. And if we pull back and stand in neutral after something like that and go, okay, wow, what am I learning here? What can I learn? What maybe do I still need to learn?
Right.
These are concepts that are very difficult and people don't like that stuff. So again, this is not all a happy subject, but in the long run, it can be really quite empowering.
Well, it's so similar to the death and dying grieving process for
Yes.
anyone, to go through the different stages, of denial, blame, all the different phases of anger and it's very much every person handles it differently, but the grieving process is really tough in this situation, similar to other types of death or
Mhm.
situations, I guess.
And as a
Mhm.
healer, I will tell you any kind of termination and, miscarriage, whatever, death of a child, death of these things come back. These are souls that actually come back in healing processes, and we will see them again. These are contracts that are essences of beings that are shards of ourselves or beyond that will greet us when we go back to the light, if we want to say it that way.
Mhm.
These come into my healing room often, and I will say to people, "Oh, you miscarried," because I can feel it. I can see it.
Mhm.
I get greeted by it, them. And so this is something to be comforted by if you choose to see it that way, in terms of this is an essence that will be with you forever, one way or another. And so I think that that's can be also very comforting, right? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
it is. It is. It gives you a different option or a different way to look at all of it for sure.
One of the most important things that I work on when they're trying now to get pregnant, though, is the really moving into that soul contract concept so that you take the spotlight off of yourself in terms of not trusting your body. Because when one is moving forward now to get pregnant and trust that process to come to fruition, one needs to absolutely trust their own vehicle. And when we've had fear and loss and grief, we don't trust this. And this is the body that is important to be able to be grounded and feel as if it is capable and ready to hold that space for that being to come forward. So my goal in working with people to get pregnant is to work with their releasing the fear of the body itself. And this is very important. And I remember what that felt like when I went through my situation. I mean, it was months and months and months and months, and I couldn't get pregnant for anything. And my first child, I got pregnant like boom. And so I thought number two was going to be super easy. But, ignorantly, I did not do a DNC or do any process in between. I just had pretty much of a horrific little personal situation with the loss and never thought two shakes about it until about a year and a half to 2.5 years in between. I'm like, maybe I should go get looked at, and push some dye through my tubes and see if I'm really okay, And I do suggest those kinds of procedures for people if they've miscarried, especially multiple times, because it's important for us to own the fact that, yes, my tubes are open and things are flowing, and I can actually conceive from a biological standpoint from that miscarriage. And so my personal take on that is that's very important. And this particular client finally did the same exact thing. She's like, I didn't DNC, I didn't get a procedure, I didn't clean out anything, and now I am. And I said, I think that's critical. So
that makes sense.
I think, I think that's really important. Then I still didn't get pregnant. So I was super frustrated. And like I said, there's 4 full years in between my first 2 kids. And then the next 2 is just like boom, boom. But I mean, I was doing everything under the sun, and I know how frustrating pregnancy trial and error is. I mean, in our day, we did the thermometer and the counting the days and the, standing on your head. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
We have to do it now. No, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, the poor guy is like, oh my God, what?
So much for intimacy. It's like, come on. Right. And even the husband aspect is like, oh my God, again, so
this is no fun anymore. What's happening?
One of the things that I did say to this particular client is don't necessarily listen to all of the facts and figures, either online or from medical, whatever, whether it's your doctor or whatever, in terms of what are the days. Yeah. Because I don't believe in that as much as I believe in my body. And I think it's very, again, important for us to get to a space energetically that we're aligning our own energy field. And if it's like, oh, I'm 2 days over that period or that window of opportunity, it's not going to happen. That isn't necessarily the case, because when I actually did get pregnant, it was ridiculously, the window of opportunity of sorts was completely gone, and I still got pregnant. So you really want to look at your own body, and you want to look at your own passion and your own desire and your own connection with yourself versus all of the, ridiculousness of timing and standing on your head, so.
But let's go back to, because I really think, and I have like a couple of examples, but the emotional part of all of this, if you're hanging on to all of the hurt and the fear, and like you talked about fear before, but even the self-talk of your body, all of that, I just think it makes it almost impossible to get pregnant, because like you said, the trust of your vessel isn't there. Because I've seen, we had friends when I was growing up that they were trying to have a baby. They finally adopted, and within a month of adopting that baby, she got pregnant.
Always.
Like that. Always. I don't think people take into consideration all of that emotional baggage along with the physical, how much that impacts, the process.
And that's a great example. Thanks for bringing that up, because it's like, okay, so now what happened to that woman is she released all of the fear and the worries of, I can't be a mother. And she puts into the universal structure, I am a mother. And then the universal structure supports, I am a mother, which is capable. I'm compassionate. I'm doing this. All of the feels are there. The sensations are there. And then boom, it aligns. That happens all of the time.
Well, think about that. I am a mother, and I feel pure joy and love for this being that I just adopted, and so like you said, that all of those good, wonderful things opened everything up.
Yes. Law of attraction. I mean, always law of attraction. So let's jump back a little bit to how do we align a baby, because this is the fun part that I get to do as a practitioner oftentimes, is when they are struggling. And I have had quite a few of clients coming in that have had miscarriages and then definitely do get pregnant after energy work. So I encourage people to do their own form of energy work or find a practitioner or whatever rings your bell for this. But this is about asking for the alignment. And this is what I tell my clients. Ask for that alignment. Ask for that soul that does align with your highest and best good. Your family belief system is the one that is true to what it is that you want to co-create and experience together. It's an asking. It's much like when we, want to work with our angels or our guides. We ask. It is a opening up. It is a conversation. It is an invitation. These are things that are really important for us to understand. Yes, we're going to have sexual acts to have it happen to make the concept of the container, but we're talking about the soul essence is the alignment ask. And I think this is really, really important. And feel while you're asking. This is what I would like to offer as a parent. This is what I see our family structure feel like. Envisioning the things that you're doing together as parents and what that looks like to cultivate and grow a family in your beliefs, et cetera. So the correct alignment comes in. And so this is a feel and an ask kind of a thing. Does that make sense? That it's
it absolutely, makes sense because even working with your higher self, connecting and asking is I just think that brings a whole, for the individual, it brings in that feeling of it's possible and it's the want and it's more tangible. I think when you go through that process.
And you want to also, if you choose to do this work, you want to also look at things like, I see the baby room. I am walking into the house with diapers. I'm at the grocery store doing my regular shopping for my partner and myself, but I'm also looking at the diaper, aisle going, oh my gosh, I've got to get this, this, and this. So you're not technically getting it, but you're intenting it so that that process feels like that it's comfortable. And these are all things that start to become, like, oh, we're going by the park. Oh, I see me with my child on the swing. And so it's starting to put that manifestation form. It's just like manifesting anything else, like a job, a home, whatever, right? We're manifesting.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like anything material that you were asking for. This is so, because your vibration changes,
right?
Of your energy fields, everything, the vibration changes for that want or that ask. Absolutely.
So this particular client was interesting because it was the week of solstice, and we just went through that recently here. And this was an opportunity for them to take it further. And I brought this forward as a concept or an idea also. I said, maybe what you and your partner want to do is actually take some sacred time during solstice and write out a contract, write out that wish list, write out that thing that I want in terms of, maybe it's the sex of the child, maybe it's the eye color. I mean, in my opinion, I don't manifest that deeply because I think the spirit will give you what is important.
Right.
But I mean, you can do whatever you choose to in terms of a contract, and to bring forward that child and then do it into a sacred burn, put it into a ceremonial burn, which I think is super cool during places and times like, ritual and solstices or equinoxes or moons or full moons. And maybe you're doing a full moon ceremony on the alignment with what your cycle is, etc. So these, to take it to more of an esoteric, cool, magical, enchanted kind of a realm is really super fun too, because then you kind of get into it and it's fun. And then you're asking for signs, give me a sign, give me a sign. But what is one of the most critical things I want to bring forward in this then is patience. Because what we do is we get super excited and we do that. And I remember doing this every month, God forbid, for 4 years. Okay, this is the month. And then the depression of, going through your cycle going, oh my God, oh my God. So it is critical that we start to honor the concept of divine timing and divine alignment, meaning that if it doesn't happen that month, it wasn't ready for whatever purpose, and really allowing yourself to get off the hook each month in terms of fail, because fail is what we feel. We feel we failed. We feel our body failed. We feel our effort failed, and there is no fail. And so this is really one of the most important parts about bringing in a baby in alignment is that concept.
Well, wouldn't it be important too, from like going back a little bit, if like when you have a miscarriage, to have a ceremony and release of that child and acknowledging that child in a way that is still part of you from that short period of time or soul perspective, but that you're moving it on through that type of ceremony
And
for
that's
that.
a great idea. And I did not bring that up, but that's a beautiful idea. I love that. And I think that that's just as important, right?
Yeah, because I don't think it's so interesting how private and how we just take it in and hold on to it and don't do anything with those emotions, in trying to figure out how to move forward. And I feel like
I
a ceremony would be amazing.
I remember when I had my situation happen to me, I was obviously way younger and working in a environment where most of my coworkers were men. It was in the restaurant industry, and I was extremely private about it. I hadn't told anyone. And my first child was only, what was Ryan? Gosh, he only would have been about 2. And I was at work trying to do a corporate style meeting about something, pretty serious, where all the guys were, rah, 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 and here I was holding all of this in. And I lost it in the middle of this meeting and just burst out crying and was so upset and just absolutely projecting all of that fear and anger and,
Yeah.
and concern and terror inside of my own body, because it was terrifying for me because I didn't know what was going on at first. And I verbally vomited that all into the meeting because I didn't have any way to even, they didn't know what was going on. And then, God forbid, when I explained it, they were all dudes and they were dying
Oh my
because it
God.
was
Like, how
like,
can I get out of this meeting? I can't get out
right,
fast
can I
enough.
just run from this crazy woman now? And I was the only female on the management team. And so it was just like, oh God, what do we do with this girl?
Jeez.
So it was very, very difficult. So I do agree that that's a beautiful concept. Take some time, do some inner work with it, do your grieving process, do your whatever it is that you need to do, because in your mind, even if it was a couple of weeks, it is a child if that's what your belief system is. If your belief system is that it isn't even a child yet, but it's still in essence, that's great too. So do whatever your belief system aligns with to be able to do that grief process, because I think that's a great addition to this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's an important way to move forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 funny stories on clients with this effort of, moving forward and getting pregnant from energy work. One of them was I was doing a client and aligning it from a very galactic standpoint. And it was very, like bringing in a lot of, this particular person was more starseed and very galactic effort. And it was like, okay. And I saw massive energy work going on with light beings on this particular client laying on the table. And I'm like, holy moly, almost to the extent of like scanning the body and doing all these things. And it was fascinating to watch. And I'm like, this woman is going to be pregnant, like literally within the month. And then what was super, super funny is Animal Totem came in, and it was a hedgehog. And I didn't know at first what it was because I don't even know what a hedgehog looks
Yeah.
like. And then I heard clearly in my head it was a hedgehog. And I'm like, I have no idea what a hedgehog even is or why I'm getting this. It was super funny. So we got done with the actual situation, and I told her about the hedgehog. Well, sure as anything, we Googled it. And a hedgehog animal totem was something about fertility. And we laughed our heads off over
What?
that one. That was just bizarre. And we giggled and laughed on that one. And then another super funny story about aligning. And sure enough, by the way, there was a baby coming through in that very next month. And so the other one was about, I saw the alignment of this child come in as a gigantic lazy boy chair, like the kind that, the old man sits in at, like I got my beverage and I'm just never get out of my chair, the big poofy one.
Yeah.
And it came flying into the vision of the actual client, like it came from the cosmos and flew into the actual energy field of the client with this little teeny tiny little baby boy laying, comfortably inside this gigantic chair. So I knew that this client was going to be pregnant with a boy. Because it was in the lazy boy chair, and it turned out to be exactly that was the case. And so there's been some really funny ones for me as a practitioner, and I've totally taken responsibility for half of the pregnancies, of course.
Right.
But energy work does really assist. I'm not saying that it's me that's doing the work, but I mean, the energy does align when you do this intention. Those were two of my favorite stories because I thought that the lazy boy chair was the best.
Oh, that's so funny. Like a tiny baby in a huge lazy boy chair. I
Yeah,
wonder
and
if they become adult, if they'll actually have a big lazy boy chair.
yeah, wouldn't you wonder? That's funny. So yeah, the joy of the actual, being able to conceive then and to how to round this one down and just unleash a little bit more is the joy of actually, yes, I am pregnant now. Yes, I do have this new life coming in now. This is one when one wants to also be completely faith-filled in terms of soul contract again. Because what will happen is oftentimes we will trigger back to that date, that a week amount that, oh my God, I lost the last one at X amount of weeks. And I want to get through that 12 weeks or that 14 weeks or whatever, they'll trigger into those old feels. So this is the time when one wants to absolutely trust fully with faith in the new alignment of the new soul contract, saying this being that is dropped in has nothing to do with old timing with other souls that had other contracts. This is a new contract that knows exactly what they're doing. And this is the time when one wants to go forward and really trust their own human female body and talk to it saying, thank you. This is gratitude. Thank you for holding this child. Thank you for holding this space. Thank you for being a safe haven, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the cultivation of that, get over that hump where the trigger is there, because this is really the most critical thing when we're, again, finally pregnant, if that's making some sense.
Yep. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
The more that you can, the self-talk, the more that you practice it, it becomes automatic, which definitely impacts the energy and your vibration within your body. So I think it's more accepting of what's to come. Absolutely.
Yep. And lastly, it's understanding if I thought I was going to have 4 kids and I only end up with 2, does this mean that that's my contract and actually knowing that this is coming from a higher space? Or does that mean that I am actually mothering in a different way? This is when we expand our concept of what my 3D boundary limited mind thinks. I wanted 4 kids and I only have 2. Well, okay, maybe you have 2 that are one's a niece and a nephew. There are different ways for us to mother. Maybe it's a 4-legged, child instead, a furry child. Maybe it is a different kind of a concept where I am doing this mothering in a different package. And so for us to get out of our own really rigid formed belief systems of, well, I always saw myself with 4 kids, that's important for us to bend, in my opinion, because that will only make us cycle in disappointment and fail again. So you can really grow your concept of what motherhood is.
Right. And it can lead into maybe it's adoption or foster care or some other things too that are important for our society, and by the way, I have 3 grand dog babies. So I get the whole furry
the fur babies.
Yeah, the fur babies. I get
it. Yeah. And in my world, I literally raised 3 children beyond my 4 in a rotating bedroom in the basement that were, the street urchins that we took in for, one of them was 3 years, one of them was 2 years, one of them was a couple months. And, so we had the rotating bedroom of additional ways of parenting and really helping individuals grow. And these are mothering aspects. And so to be able to be more open-minded about that, I think is a really beautiful way to show up. I mean, there are people that want babies and never end up finding a partner or having the baby. And that maybe it's because you're mothering in a completely different package. So honor that and learn that this is a beautiful part of why you're on this planet, if you choose to, because it will bring joy versus frustration.
I think that you just said the word beautiful. I think that's beautiful to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Not when you're in this body and you don't totally understand your contract that you came in with, to look at it from a whole different perspective is really, really wonderful.
Especially mothering. Mothering is an honor and it is a privilege. And we mother in a million ways. We can mother hospice patients. We can mother neighbors. We can mother all kinds of things. We can mother clients. We can do all kinds of really healthy boundary style mothering. and still be fulfilled if we just open our package up. So I think that there's a lot to unpack in this whole thing, but hopefully we kind of hit some of the nuggets. And as always, take what resonates, toss the rest. If you want to, which we hope you do, share this video, like this video, subscribe to us. We appreciate being able to share the stories with you.
It's a wonderful time.
Yeah, and comment, because we love your comments and we would like to hear from you and know what you want more of, because God knows I come across almost everything in a practitioner day. So let us know what rings your bell, and we will be back at another time very soon. So thanks for listening. On behalf of Kim and I, thanks everybody, and
Take
cosmic
care.
hugs.
Bye.